Hi everyone, this is Youssef Farhat. I've been working on a quality improvement project, and I wanted to share some tools that I've come across in Microsoft Excel that will probably save a lot of time when doing analysis from month to month. And so I wanted to share some of these tools with the community, and hopefully it'll save other people time as well. I wasn't really aware of some of these things that you can do in Excel, namely pivot tables and this function called VLOOKUP. And so I want to share that with you guys and show you how it can be useful for a quality improvement project. And maybe you'll be able to use these tools um, in your own research and projects moving forward. So let's take a look at this Excel sheet I have. Basically, what I have is tons and tons of data that we pulled from our laboratory information system on all of the tests that were unable to be performed because of hemolysis. And so we have, for example, date and time that each sample was received, what test was being attempted, and it was obviously deleted because of too high of a hemolysis level. And so we have thousands and thousands of data points to analyze because lots and lots of tests are being rejected every day. And it would take forever if I wanted to know how many potassiums and how many bilirubins to kind of go through and, sort um, and then, find a way to count for each month the number of bilirubins, the number of potassiums, and so on and so forth in order to determine whether our interventions are reducing the number of hemolyzed samples. So there is an automated tool that will help us do this. It's called a pivot table. And the way you do it is you select the data that you want to analyze, and then you go to Insert, Pivot Table, and then you basically select the table of data that you want to analyze, and you hit OK. Yes, you want the pivot table to go to a new worksheet, let's say. And then you end up with this thing called the pivot table where you can actually drag around the different columns that we had in our original data set. So if I go right quickly back to the original data, we had received date and time. DTA is the test name. So for example, if I wanted to create a table where I have the tests broken up into rows and the number of tests that were hemolyzed is what I'm interested in. So that'd be counting each unique type of test, and I want to break that down by month. So I want columns showing me in November I had this many, in December I had that many. So I'll just go over to when it was received, drag that over into my columns, and there it is. So in 2020, we had one failed hemolysis, hemolyzed sample, one failed iron saturation test, 119 failed alk phoses, and so on and so forth. And if you push the little plus sign, you can actually break it up into quarters and months. And so Excel really does all the heavy lifting in generating this data for us. And all we had to do was just decide whether we wanted to have our tests in the rows or the columns and so on and so forth. And you can actually do all sorts of things. You can do counts. You can do calculations by changing the value, field settings, so you can get average numbers, max and minimum, and Excel will automatically calculate all those things for you however you want it using a pivot table. So I highly recommend people learn how to use pivot tables to save themselves some time. And so I created a pivot table in this sheet here, which is similar to the one that I just showed you. But I went a step further, which is basically if I wanted to make it easier to graph certain tests of interest, then when I make this pivot table, I'd have to hit Control C, copy this one, and bring it up and paste it. and then grab the next test and paste it underneath. And then I could, select those and create a chart in Excel so we can actually look at the number of rejections in each month for all these different tests. So it's totally possible to do that manually. But what happens if I want to add a new set of data to, like, let's say, for example, right now I only have November, December, and January. I want to add February. Well, if I add February, then we might have a few new tests that get hemolyzed that weren't there before. Those tests get added, and that's going to start shifting all my data around. So these rows can move around. The pivot table can evolve as you add more data to your data set, and then refresh the pivot table in order to bring that new data into it. And so you can actually use a tool, or it's a function rather, called VLOOKUP. And what I'm doing here with VLOOKUP is I'm actually using the name of the test that I'm interested in and telling Excel to pull in the data that corresponds to that test name. So no matter where AST is in my table, this function will actually go and find the number of hemolyzed ASTs. So AST was right here. It'll actually go and find it for that month, for November, and bring it in no matter where it is in the pivot table. So I've set this up so that basically when we go ahead and let's say I want to add the month of February. So let me jump down to the bottom of my table here. So I've got November, December, and January so far. I want to add February, so I'll go over to the data that I was provided from our query. And I will select everything, copy it, go back over to our master data sheet and paste it in here. I made a mistake. Hit Control Z. I must not have selected everything. Yeah, I wasn't in all the way. So let's try that one more time. So I'm going to go over, select everything. There we go. Go all the way down, copy, and paste it right here. The data has to line up perfectly. That's why I noticed something was wrong. Okay, so now it looks like all the data is lining up perfectly. So now I want to bring in the month of February data into my pivot table. So I click in my pivot table. I go over to the Analyze tab. And I'm just going to say refresh. And now it's actually going to the master sheet. It's going to bring in the month of February's data, and there it is. It's automatically populated it here. And now even though I think a couple tests got added down here and things shifted around, all I have to do if I want to analyze and bring in the month of February for these 4 tests of interest is drag it over. And that's it. And now I have February's data. So here's ALT. Let's just take a quick look. So the February's number of hemolyzed samples was 109. So I go down to ALT, and there it is. Okay. So if I want to add another test that I'm interested in, I can just drag the grand total down. Let's say I'm interested in the number of alk phoses, okay? Alk phos. As long as I type it the same way it appears here, so probably the better way to do this would be to hit copy, Control C, and then paste as a value, right? So now, if I want, I can just drag my formula that I've already created here, drag it down, and then drag it over. And let's see what happens. So alk phos, oh, actually it already did that when Excel's smarter than I thought. It actually already copied the formula appropriately when I created that new row. So let's just make sure if this worked. So alk phos 46, 73, and so on. And there it is. Yeah. So if you want to add a new row of data, all you have to do is type in the name here and just kind of drag the formula that I've created in this area down. And you can incorporate more tests into your analysis table here. And let's see if this works. So the source data got kind of messed up for this chart. But we can fix that if we just select everything over again, hit OK. There we go. So now we've actually added in alk-phos to our chart, and so these are the number of rejections of hemolysis per month. So anyway, if we added another row of data, all we'd have to do here is select the chart and then drag it over, and we can continue to plot additional months as we go. So I've set up this table so that in the future, if people want to analyze the data for this this project, all we have to do is copy the next month's worth of data, paste it in the bottom of this master sheet here. Make sure everything's all lined up with the rest of the data. You just go over to the analysis, click inside, go to analyze, and hit refresh. Hit refresh. And then again, you can just select one of these columns and drag it over in order to get your additional data and bring it into your summary area. So I thought that was a cool few tricks that I learned, and I hope that that was helpful for some of you.